Welcome to Getting the Job, your guide to the hiring process. In this video, you will hear from human resources professionals providing insights into the hiring process with tips on how to secure a job. Joining us is Rhonda Bell of the Washington State Department of Enterprise Services, April Gibson of Puget Sound Orthopedics, Lisa Arbakauskas with REI, and Dennis Loney with Workplace Innovations, LLC. Moderating our discussion is Mike Hudson with the Association of Washington Business Institute.
So, what's your advice to folks who are looking at a resume from format to structure to content?
I personally feel that format isn't necessarily important, or structure isn't necessarily important, but I tend to be a random person, so that may not work for a linear person. But what's more important, again, is that you have put the effort in to making a complete resume that showcases your skills, that are pertinent to the skills necessary for the job that you're applying for, and also what you will bring to the company. You can write a functional resume, you can write a chronological resume. We don't really nitpick resumes. We just want the information there that shows us that you are someone who, number one, cares about the work that you've just put out, because this is your work that you are owning, and as long as there's a work history there, more and more we don't really care about references because everybody's terrified to say anything to you. We find that we get false information from references, so it's not really a big deal to put references on a resume for us. But again, it's about the quality of the product that you are handing over to us.
For ours, I think I would agree absolutely that the quality of effort that you show in what you're submitting is really, really important. And it is very, very important also to have listed out your work history and the length of time that you were in different roles. Because even if you've had a certain type of experience, if it was 2 months or 2 years, it says something different about your qualifications for the job. And when it gets to hiring manager, they want to know that. And I see some resumes that come in without that, and I don't think that's as effective. Or it appears that you're trying to hide something. The format, I personally don't have a super strong bias one way or the other. I've seen a tendency of a lot of our hiring managers have a preference, if it's an office or corporate type of job, to see a chronological resume. It doesn't matter as much if it's a more entry-level job. And there it's more about just the types of experiences that you've had, and it's a little bit less about the tenure in those and the specific sequence that they had. So it depends on the job. For our positions that we have distribution centers and warehouse type work, and for those, that attention to detail and spelling thing is not as important for those jobs. And we try to make sure that we're keeping the details that we're critiquing about the application relevant to the job that we're considering. And if that's not something that they need to do in their job, it's not as important. But showing that level of interest and taking the time and to make sure you really represented yourself is important.
So again, make the resume, make the cover letter fit the job that you're applying for.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I think in the resume, beyond just doing something where you're just rewriting job descriptions from previous jobs, what value did you add? So as much as possible, try to also be qualitative in your description of your work in terms of what your contribution was. What I find with a resume that speaks more qualitatively, it leads me to say, gee, I'd really like to talk to them about that, about how did they do that. And I mean, it really does create that interest to wanting to know more about the person.
You want to make sure, I would think, that to not, have a 5-page resume. You want to make it succinct. You want to identify in there straight away the skill sets that you have that are going to match up with that job posting. Recruiters don't spend a whole lot of time on each resume. And when you have, I mean, if you're hand screening, which, that's, you don't hear too much about that, but, there are still times when you're hand screening and you have 100 resumes to go through or 100 profiles to go through. You're not spending a whole lot of time reading and reading and reading. So you want to be very clear. And again, I can't talk about WorkSource enough. Those resume classes, step in and sit through one, because you can learn a lot. And giving your resume to your friend, yes, I know I've spelled everything right, but take a look at it and you could find something there that, no, look. And it's like, and it shows up like a red flag. But, I'm reading and reading
That's
and I don't
critical.
see it.
Yeah.
So,
I think there is a historical guideline to have a one-page resume. I don't think that's as relevant anymore. A lot of them, especially when they're coming in digitally, we don't even know where the page break would have been.
Right.
And while it shouldn't be a 5 or 9 page resume, and it should be succinct, if there's other bits of experience, don't necessarily feel constrained by the one-page cutoff. If there's relevant experience, get it in there. They'll recognize
Relevant.
people are going to be going through it quickly, so make sure that those big hitter things are represented near the top of the resume.
Digital resumes are, and digital applications are another thing that is fairly new and job seekers need to be aware of. There are ways of formatting and structuring your resume in the digital world that don't pertain in the paper world. So having that skill and being able to do that is important as well.
Yeah, I think the formatting, from my experience, is keep it simple. I mean, keep it professionally looking, keep it easily readable, but keep it simple, because a lot of times when you upload into an online system, if you have a lot of fancy formatting, it just wreaks havoc with the final product that the person looking at is going to be seeing. I mean, they'll start seeing characters and all kinds of things in there that really make it difficult to read. So if you know it's going to be uploaded, keep the formatting very simple.
And also format it in the most prevalent type of Word document.
Yeah.
We've had WordPad or Notepad, whatever that program's called, the WPS files, and we can't read them because we don't have Notepad. So we are not going to go back to you and say we can't read your resume. Make sure that it's in the most common form of Word possible, so that anybody can open it up.
Yeah, or convert it over to a PDF.
Or convert it, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, much larger companies, national companies who get thousands and thousands of resumes, not just per week, but per job opening, and their use of software that screens for keywords and whatnot. And from what we can tell, it's created a lot of frustration with job seekers, because if you don't pick out the key keywords and address those in your application, the chances of you being pulled out for an interview are pretty slim. It can be very frustrating.
And some of the companies I've worked with use software that looks for, searches for keywords in the application and in the resume. And I think for me it goes a little bit beyond that. I think that for any job seeker who's really serious about applying for a job that they're interested in, they really need to take a look at their resume and not just submit a generic resume. They really need to look at what are the qualifications of this job, what do I have that matches the qualifications, and where is it found in my resume. And I really encourage people to really take a hard look at what they're applying for, and not to send the same resume out to every single application, but to really take the time to fine-tune it. Even if they have a professional objective stated in their resume, make the professional objective the job you're applying for. I'm applying for a job of a software developer at Microsoft Corporation in Redmond. I mean, make it that specific. I mean, if nothing else, if your resume gets detached from your application, they know what the resume is applying for.
Yes.
So, and I think that for job seekers that do that, I think it really does address that whole issue of any company that does use keyword searches in their software, that if they're taking the time to really focus in on the job they're applying for, they've already addressed that issue.
And in my personal experience in having applied for a couple of different positions over the last several years, what the feedback that I received from the companies that I sent my resume to was it's very helpful to understand the company's mission,
Certainly.
their values, their philosophy, their goals. And a lot of that you can get off of their website just by going to their website and reading through, doing a very thorough review of their website and understanding the company itself, and then tying your resume and your cover letter into, weaving those bits of information that you glean off of the website or any other documents that you can get your hands on that pertain to the company, weaving that into your resume and into your cover letter, because that shows that you are not just applying for 50 different positions and you don't really care which one you get.
Yes.
You just want a job. You want this job and you want to work for this company, and that's very meaningful to a recruiter.
And as candidates are looking to get past a keyword scenario, and we don't filter on that, but we do search on that sometimes and have the ability to search for certain keywords. Most of those keywords are going to be listed in the qualifications of the job. So I would encourage candidates always to look at the specific job posting that they're applying for, look through those qualifications in the description, and make sure if they have that experience that they're using the same words to describe it that the job uses to list the qualifications. I've also seen candidates put at the very bottom of their resume a line or a couple lines that said keywords, and they just one word after another listed different
Brilliant.
wording for the same skill and how it could be captured in case they were searching for a different version of how that could be described. And that can get past that. And
That works? Okay.
Yeah, and they can look at
Interesting.
other postings for similar jobs too and get some ideas for there. And now they shouldn't put it on there if it's not truly represented in their experience, but if it is, that can be a great way to make sure that theirs is caught.
Right. You really need to have a resume for every job that you apply for.
We talked earlier about networking. I think that's one of the benefits of networks too, is that when you know people who work for a company, have them proof the resume that you're going to be submitting to their company and see what's missing. Am I telling my story in the right way for your company and your culture?
That's a great tip.
Well, for us, it's we take a look at the structure of the application and resume and cover letter. If they have, you wouldn't believe the amount of people that say they're detail-oriented but don't spell detail-oriented correctly. So first and foremost, we're looking for, have you been true to what you say you are in your application and in your resume and cover letter? Is it coherent? Is it grammatically correct? Is the punctuation correct? So it's easy to send in an application and a resume. It's much more difficult to send one in that somebody really is going to bother to take the time to look at.
Okay. Anybody else? What are you looking for?
Making sure when a person applies for a job that they're meeting the required qualifications. Sometimes they're called requirements. Sometimes qualifications are required qualifications. Making sure that those are met. Making sure that that's a complete application package. Some of the postings that recruiters post online ask for a resume and a cover letter and a list of references, 3 references with current phone numbers. It's amazing how many will provide references, but you can't reach them because their phone numbers are outdated or non-existent or what have you. So making sure that the application package is complete. And if the recruitment or posting doesn't note that you must include a cover letter, I advise folks to include a cover letter. Illustrate your passion in that cover letter. Why do you want to work for that agency? And looking at those agencies' missions, goals, values, much like you would any other companies that you're applying for. not just I want to work for the state, any job. You are applying for a specific job. You don't send your resume to a recruiter or an HR person and say, I want to work for your company. Okay, what is it that you are looking for? What job? You know, don't have the recruiter sort that out, because it's not going to happen. You as the job seeker need to be specific about what you're applying for. A complete application package.
This video was made possible by funding from the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services, Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. This video has been a production of the Association of Washington Business Institute. For more information, visit our website at www.awbinstitute.org.